What is job costing software? The thing to know about software is your software is not doing the job costing. Your process does the job costing. Buying a job costing software without a process, kind of like buying a gym membership and just not going. By the end of this video, you're gonna know what job costing software does, what it doesn't do, and what has to exist in your business before buying software is worth any of the dollars that you put into it. So as we talk to contractors around the country, we tend to go to a lot of build shows, build expos. We get invited to come and speak. And so we'll interact with everybody that's there and get to learn about what they're dealing with, what they're seeing. And then if we have a little bit of time, we'll walk around and just see what the booths are that are there. And we're always overwhelmed by the number of technology booths in terms of software. And there's a lot of Me Too stuff, a lot of PM software, marketing software, that sort of thing. And so people are walking around and they're really going from Band-Aid to Band-Aid, from problem to problem, and they're trying and hoping that software will solve the problem. Well, there are some softwares that are bigger than most, and you can see them at these shows when you walk in to see what the big behemoths are, particularly in the luxury custom building space. We see what some of those big ones are, and there are others as well. And one of the things that always frustrates us is when we end up getting into a conversation with somebody, and they'll say, oh yeah, my PM software. I'm like, oh, tell us about that. And they'll tell us about the project management software, and we usually know what they are. And as we get to talking to them about their project management software, by the time we get done with it, they have confessed to us that they are so frustrated with their software, and it just creates more work than it does value. And then we start to lean in a little bit, and we find out that they're actually only using about 18% of the capability of the software. See, off-the-shelf SaaS software, or software as a service, is usually purchased to solve one problem, but it's got a feature list that'll solve 118 problems. And so you're usually underutilizing most of the software, and what's even more frustrating is many times you're actually not using the very feature that you need to be using within the software. And so let's take job costing as one of those features. Job costing needs to be a core foundational fundamental for every construction business. In fact, if you want to know at a macro level what a construction business needs to look like top to bottom, then you need to click on the link in the video description below, and I will walk you through a video that I've titled How to Build a System for Your Construction Business. It'll help you build a business that can run and grow, and you're like, well, I've got that, with or without you. Particularly the run and the grow without you is what I'm interested in. And so click on that link below and you can understand where all of this fits within the macro perspective of your entire construction business. But back to the software element. Many of the construction owners that we meet have purchased the software, and 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later, they're still only using 18%, and they're frustrated and want to move on to the next thing. Well, guess what happens when they move on to the next software? They only use 18% of that, and they gripe about it too, and then they move to a third. Round and round we go. So we get asked this question all the time. Hey, Scott, you work with a lot of contractors. What's your favorite PM software, your favorite project management software? All right, you ready? Get your notes ready. I'm going to tell you. Whichever one you'll use. That's it. They're all pretty good, or they wouldn't be on the market. And so whichever one you'll use is the one we want you to use to be able to get the data out of you. And if you don't have a software, just use a spreadsheet. I've actually got a shirt that says spreadsheets change lives. I think they're amazing if you'll just use it. But you know what the downfall of software is? It's your utilization of it. It's the fact that we won't use it to the capability or the capacity that we wanted to get it and buy it for in the first place. So software that can track our job costing is really just software that's doing a couple things. It's creating an anchor spot for the contract value of that particular contract. That's step number one. Then it's allowing us an opportunity to be able to track our cost of goods sold that's broken down by SLME. It looks like slime. What is that? Subcontractors, laborers, material, and equipment. So we've got these, that's the ingredient or the cocktail mix that makes up your cost of goods. So we take your contract value, subtract your cost of goods. From there, we get your gross profit. And then out of that, we need to subtract overhead expenses. And from there, we get your net income. And so that's a basic layout of how our financials work, which we need to be able to track that on a regular basis. But here's the problem. We buy the software and we just kind of hope it happens. But it's the old garbage in, garbage out. If you don't put these numbers in the software, then the software is not going to spit the report out to give you the analytics of the delta between what you estimated and what actually happened. And so we've got to have these numbers that are there, and then we've got to have the discipline to be able to put them in. So I want you to walk up this ladder. Sorry, this is supposed to be a ladder, but you get the idea. And the ladder has 3 rungs. The first rung is the process rung. The second rung is the repetition rung, and the third rung is the ladder rung. Too many times we turn the ladder upside down, and we start with software, we try to put in the reps and hope a process is birthed out of it. The reality is it doesn't work that way. Instead, what I want you to do is start with the process. And so that top rung is the software rung, and many times we turn that whole thing upside down. And we try to start with the software solving our problems, then we move into the repetitions to be able to work the software, and then finally, we hope a process is born, but that's not how it works. We've got to be able to flip this thing upside down, put software at the top, process at the bottom, and so we've got to build a culture of process using a methodology that we call the systems mindset. So let's take that up here, the systems mindset. What is that? That means the next thing that you're about to do, we want you to capture it, to document it like it's the last time you'll ever do it. So let's say that you're going to do job costing. Remember, I just gave you the formula over here of what job costing looks like. So we want to package that up and we want to turn it into a process. And then turning this into a process, then we start to do it again and do it again. So we'll do that process with job number 1, job number 2, job number 3, and we'll begin to job cost, contract value, cost of goods. We get to our gross profit, overhead, net income. Job 2, contract value, cost of goods, etc., all the way down. And so once we've documented this into a process, leveraging the systems mindset, meaning, hey, we just got a new contract. Okay, let's write down the contract value. Let's begin tracking the cost of goods on a spreadsheet before we have the software. Let's create the discipline around that. Let's determine the gross profit of that job. And then ultimately, after our overhead, the net income of that job. Okay, now we have it processed. Job number 2 just came in. Let's do it again. Job number 3, do it again. Job number 4, do it again. Now we're at a point we know what our job costing looks like so that when we go to the build show, we can walk around with our job costing and go, hey, I don't just need the software with 118 things that your software does. I need software to do this job costing and these 4 other things. Does your software do that? Can you walk me through how your software does that and shows me seamlessly how it can take our process with our repetition methodology and then leverage it on top of your software to make this faster, easier, simpler, and better data come out the top. And once you have the data come out of this, now you can make some really powerful decision making. You can look in the past and go, hey, based on our profit and loss statement or a balance sheet, here are some decisions we can make moving forward based on the profitability of these jobs. Hey, cash in the accounts. We can start changing up our terms for how we bill, and so we don't have so much overbilling or underbilling based on the WIP report, and we can start to look at that. Or we can start making decisions about hiring and payroll and all sorts of things. But we have to get this data first, and we can leverage this data in an automated way, but only after we've turned it into a process that's repetitive over and over and over again. When your process is solid as a foundation, your software becomes a force multiplier at that point. But when we flip the ladder and we try to go software first without the process documented, thinking that the software is going to solve that for us, what your software becomes is a very expensive shelf decor at that point. It looks really cool. You can walk around and tell all your friends, yeah, we use this software and that software. And yeah, when we're talking about our stuff, we're doing all this in the software. But the reality is, it's just a shelf decoration until you've got the process mapped out for proper job costing. Hey, listen, when you do this, it gives you such clarity. And if you'll merge what I'm talking about with the job costing with that link that I mentioned in the description below with how to build a system for your construction business, what you're going to start to do is get elements of clarity that come in. Too many contractors are living in chaos, and our aim is to use these resources to liberate you from that chaos to make time for the things that matter most.